Hello everyone and welcome to this new course, a book summary on a very beautiful book, Tuesdays with Morrie, written by Mitch album. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be the presenter of this course. Here's a little information of who I am. I was born in Karnataka and for the past 15 years I've been living in Chennai. I stumbled on Unacademy through Quora and I'm really glad it happened. I'm an officer in a major public sector bank, and apart from that, I've cleared many bank PO exams, SSC and AFCAT. When I'm not busy being an officer, I'm into books, dosas, treks, Coldplay and Rahman. To catch my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy, rate, review and comment if you got any suggestions at the end of the course. Tuesdays with Morrie, as the name suggests, isn't just another normal storybook. It's a classroom where the subject taught is the meaning of life. It's more of a collection of emotions, if you ask me. The story revolves around Mitch, the author of the book, and his favorite professor, Morrie. Remember that favorite teacher you had in school and he who inspired you a lot? That's Morrie for you people. That's Morrie for Mitch album. At some point, this story might sound like a philosophy class and I might sound like a Himalayan Baba, but that's how it is. If you're looking for life's greatest lesson, I do recommend you pick up this book whenever you find time. The story begins with the graduation day of Mitch, where he bids goodbye to his favorite professor with a hug. And then he says one word, I'll meet you soon. But even after 16 years, that day never came. Mitch got busy with his life and was always aspired to become a musician. He played in nightclubs for years and years, only to realize that his dream was too far-fetched. He had an uncle who suffered from pancreatic cancer, and witnessing him die changed the perspective of Mitch, who looked at life a lot differently after that. He gave up his dreams, got back to school, mastered in journalism, and you know what? Went on to become a very successful sports journalist. Then after that, there was no looking back for him. He became too famous, featured in radio and TV shows, brought a huge bungalow, rode costly cars, and then he was so settled. But there was something missing, the feel of being complete. And that is how the story began. One lazy evening, as Mitch was surfing through the TV channels, he was stunned for a while. You know what? He witnessed someone on a very famous show, Nightline, where Ted Koppel, a very famous interviewer, was talking to an old man. You know who the old man is? Yep, you guessed it right. Morrie it was. That was the moment of realization for Mitch. It brought back all the beautiful memories that he had with Morrie, and looking at Morrie on a wheelchair made him sad. Apparently, Morrie had come down and has been living like this for the past few years after he was affected by a neurological disorder. He has been featured in the local magazine as the philosophical father, as he has been teaching a lot about life to people in the locality. That is how he stumbled on this very famous show, The Nightline. While Ted was interviewing Morrie about all the philosophies he had been following, there was something that Morrie said that moved Mitch a lot. So many people walk around with a meaningless life. They seem half asleep. Even when they are busy doing, they think they're important. This is because they're chasing the wrong things. The way you get meaning in your life is to devote yourself to loving others, devote yourself to your community around you, and devote yourself to creating something new that gives purpose and meaning. Bam! That was the moment of epiphany for Mitch. He wanted to go and hug his professor right then and there, but there was something that held him back really bad, the regret of not visiting his favorite professor all these years. You know what happened the next day? Mitch was standing in front of Morrie's house in his car and wondering whether to enter or not. And then, when Morrie witnessed Mitch standing there, he came to him, hugged him, kissed him, and said, "Oh God, my dear old friend, welcome." It was a beautiful Tuesday morning, and Mitch and Morrie had a very brief conversation. Mitch became totally sentimental about his life and started sharing that he hasn't been that happy even though he has been very successful. That is when Morrie utters these beautiful lines. Dying is only one thing to be sad over. Living unhappily is something else. And with that, the first lesson of Morrie's class begins. That day, when Mitch was about to leave Morrie, he had made up his mind for one thing. He was going to meet Morrie, his favorite professor, every single Tuesday and feel complete about himself. You know why? Morrie brought him happiness. All those beautiful thoughts his sparkling eyes, his philosophy toward life, and even being positive when you're being dreaded by such a life threatening disease. This is what moved Mitch a lot. And then, with this, I take you to the world of Morrie. Wait a minute. Before you enter our classroom, let me make sure you have one thing in hand, a notepad and a pen. I'll be dropping some of philosophy's bombs of Morris now and I'll be asking a few questions, and I hope you answer them and look at life in a different way. Anyway, I'll see you in class, people. Bye bye, and have a great day. Sayonara. Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the first lesson of this new course, Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR, and I'll be the presenter today. Here's a little information about who I am. To catch my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. In the last class, we had a little discussion about the different characters in this story, Mitch and Morrie. Mitch, who was very successful in his life but led an unsatisfied life. And then we have Morrie, who has a deteriorating health condition but is really positive about life. After the student met his professor after 16 long years, he had decided that he'll be meeting him every Tuesday. And this is how we come into the first Tuesday. Today, the topic being the world and self-pity. How pure were we when we were young and our minds unspoiled? This is a striking claim from Morrie in this chapter when he reveals that he is going to need someone to wipe his ass. While this is a cringeworthy moment for anyone, he claims that he is going to enjoy it. His explanation is rather simple and the one that would actually make you smile. He says, "After all, I get to be a baby again." How often do we have our parents tell us, "I wish you were still a baby"? Mitch is pretty much surprised on how Morrie looks at life. When he asks him about how dependent he has become these days, this is what Morrie had to say. "Well, I have to look at life uniquely now, let's face it. I can't go shopping, I can't take care of my bank accounts, I can't take out the garbage. But I can sit here with my dwindling days and look at what I think is important in life. I have both the time and the reason to do that." Pretty interesting, right? While they were having this conversation, Mitch notices that there were many newspapers near him. This baffles him a lot. Why would it not? After all, here is a guy who is going to be dead soon and still wants to know what is happening around the world. Why? Again, his answer takes you by surprise. He says that because of his terminal illness, he is more drawn towards other people's suffering. For example, when he reads news of people being killed in a shootout. When we were young, how many times have we seen the news of someone's death or a terror attack and asked our parents with the most utmost care, "Mommy, what happened to them?" Or even cry without even knowing why. This is when Mitch starts wondering, seriously, what's wrong with me? Mitch writes on how, even though he is in the news industry, he has never bothered to care about other people's suffering despite being close to so many of them. How do we get lost in our own world so much? Why do we actually earn out it? Death is a great leveler, sure, but why do we have to wait till then to show compassion towards others? Isn't that a little too late? The talks about compassion slowly leads to the conversation to love. This is what Mitch has to say. "Love is the only rational act." And Morrie replies, "The most important thing in life is to learn how to give out love and to let it come in." This gets us to the most important lesson that Morrie tells us in this chapter. We think that we don't deserve it or that we will become too soft because of love. But what is the point of life by just being strong and have no love? Why do we fear of getting hurt and not let go of what is holding us back? The society thinks that growing up means to not think like a child. But it is the child inside you that gives you life. We grow up to make a living, but we should all be a child inside to have a life, isn't it? With that little conversation, the first Tuesday comes to an end and Mitch has to leave. Well, before that, I have a slide for you to ponder upon. Ask yourself, when was the last time you gave out love without expecting anything in return? Think. Think a lot. The second Tuesday. On the second Tuesday, Mitch visits Morrie again. Every time he had to visit Morrie, he had to fly for 700 miles. But here's what. He liked him a lot. and he made himself feel better when he was with Morrie. This is one reason he didn't want to miss a single moment with Morrie. When Mitch arrived, Morrie was there in the washroom, taken care by his caretakers. He notices that the newspaper was still there and the newspaper still sucked. I mean, seriously, look at your newspaper, someone. Someone is killed, robbed, murdered, and there's nothing positive about it. When was the last time you felt satisfied after reading a newspaper? When Morrie arrives outside, there's this don't you feel sorry about yourself look on Mitch's face. And Morrie understands instantly. He says, sometimes in the morning, that's when I moan. I feel around my body, I move my fingers and my hands, whatever I can still move, and I moan what I've lost. The moan the slow, insidious way in which I'm dying. But then I stop moaning. This takes Mitch by surprise again. And then Morrie goes on saying that he doesn't bother at all. He concentrates on the good things in life. I mean, seriously, look at this old man and look at ourselves. Ever felt sorry for about your existence? Well, yeah. Most of us spend the best day of our life feeling pity about us, be it health, relationship, or material possessions. Looking on the brighter side has become more of a fantasy these days, isn't it? Ask yourself for a while and you'll find an answer. Here's how Morrie puts it. I give myself a good cry if I need it, but then I concentrate on all the good things in my life, on the people who are coming to see me, on the stories I'm going to hear. Kinda makes you feel grateful about your life, isn't it? With the deteriorating condition of Morrie, the class becomes a little lesser time this time. He talks about trust before Mitch leaves him, and then he says this. Sometimes you cannot believe what you see, you have to believe what you feel. And if you are going to have other people trust you, you must feel that you can trust them too, even when you're in the dark, even when you're falling. Beautifully said line. Anyway, I think this brings us to the last part of our session. And as I said, please take up your notepad that I already asked you to have. And here are some little questions that I want you to answer, if possible. Anyway, are you ready for the questions? Before that, take a deep breath. Like that. Close your eyes and just listen to the questions. Pause the video, start writing about your thoughts. Once you're done, ask yourself, how lucky are you? Here's the first question. When was the last time you felt sorry for yourself and why? Who is that person in your life who showers love without expecting anything in return? And the last question, what would you do to make this world a better place? Anyway, I'll just leave you here and let you ponder upon this and see you in the next class. Thanks a lot. Have a great day and bye bye. Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the second lesson of this course, Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be your presenter today. Here's a little information about me. To follow my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. Today we'll be looking at the conversation of what Mitch and Morrie had on the third and fourth Tuesday. The topic being regrets and death. On the third Tuesday, Mitch walked in with loads and loads of food and he brought something really special, a Sony tape recorder. You know how a tape recorder is very precious? It captures memory even when people are long gone, isn't it? Once Mitch walks into the room, Morrie looks at the tape recorder and said, Mitch, I'm going to die. And sooner, not later. So you want to listen to me when I'm dead, right? Apparently, Mitch didn't want to forget the beautiful sessions that he had with Morrie, and so that he agrees with what Mitch says. When Mitch asks Morrie whether he's uncomfortable with the tape recorder, here's what Morrie had to say. I want someone to hear my story. Will you? Ever since Mitch started visiting Morrie, he had been having several doubts about regrets. I mean, look at this old man. Didn't he have any regrets in life? How is he so damn positive? Would he have done things differently? Had I been in his shoes, had I regretted the secrets I had been kept hidden? Look at yourself and ask a question. What would you do if today was your last day in your life? There's a beautiful discussion that goes on between Mitch and Morrie on why people regret their life a lot. And here's what Morrie had to say. We're so wrapped with egoistical things: career, family, having enough money, meeting the mortgage, getting a new car, fixing the radiator when it breaks. We're involved in trillions of little acts just to keep going. So we don't get into a habit of standing back and looking at our lives and saying, is this all? Is this all I want? Is something missing? Think about it, people. Look at your life and ask a question. At this point, what do you regret the most? If at all you find yourself in a place of regret, here's what you can do. Find yourself a teacher, someone who can guide you, someone who can enlighten you. Okay, let's not talk too much philosophy, but you do get it right. If you happen to find someone like Morrie, then that's well and good for you. Since Mitch had been living a very unsatisfied life, he had to ponder upon all these thoughts while his ride back home. Sorry about that. Anyway, on his way back on his ride, Mitch started thinking about all the self regret thoughts that Morrie had implanted within him. And Mitch started wondering, why are we so unhappy these days? I mean, look at us, searching for self help books everywhere. And there are people who have been given self consultation sessions with an insanely huge price, let's say $90, and here was an old man giving it for free. And there are millions of self help books, and let's agree on one thing. These self help books makes you feel better, but it doesn't give you a change, right? So here's what Morrie had to say, and here were many questions that were unanswered. Do you take care of others or take care of your inner child? Return to traditional values or reject traditions as useless? Seek success or seek simplicity? Just say no or just do it? When Mitch started thinking a lot about these, he remembered something that Morrie said. Ask me anything, Mitch. So he wrote down a list which has been the topic for the next few Tuesdays: death, fear, aging, greed, marriage, family, society, forgiveness, and a meaningful life. Mitch had kept it safely within his bag, and the session for the next class was on. And we now enter the fourth Tuesday of Tuesdays with Morrie. Today, the topic being death and its game. The scenario was completely different when Morrie entered the room because there was a new machine, an oxygen machine. Apparently, Morrie's condition had been deteriorating, and the only thing that kept him alive was the oxygen machine. When Mitch enters, there's still the newspaper near Morrie, and it's still a ruckus. And here was Morrie, all calm and serene, and today he was going to talk about death. I mean, look at us, living like we're going to live forever. Have you ever stopped and considered the fact that today might be a last day? I mean, seriously, anything might happen, right? Then why on earth do we postpone every beautiful ideas that we have? Tomorrow is an illusion. Do think upon that. Though Morrie was Jewish, he had a habit of borrowing philosophy from other religions like Buddhism and Christianity. And here's a little analogy he sneaked in from Buddhism: the little bird. Go and stand in front of a mirror and visualize that there's a little bird who sits on your shoulder. Every day, ask him a little question. Is today the day? Am I ready? Am I doing all I need to do? Am I being the person I want to be? When I say is today the day, it means your last day. Once you start answering these little questions, there's a certain clarity in your thoughts that might actually change your life big time. And here's a quote that Morrie drops in about death. Once you learn how to die, you learn how to live. The meaning being, every day you'll have to consider the fact that you might die, and that is how you're supposed to plan your living. Once you start doing it, you'll start feeling complete in your life. That being said, let's consider a fact. What's holding us back? Anyway, this is what Morrie had to say. We really don't experience the world fully because we are half asleep, doing things we automatically think we have to do. And that is part of the culture, if you ask me about it. And once you strip away all the stuff and you focus on the essentials, you'll realize you're going to die. You see everything much differently. So, this is what it means when I say learn how to die and you learn how to live. With that philosophy, Morrie starts looking out of the window and wonders how beautiful nature is. And this is what he had to say about it. The things you spend so much time on, all this work you do, might not seem important as it is. You might have to make room for some spiritual things like nature. And then he looked at the little bird on his shoulder and asked, "Is it today, little bird? Is it today?" And with that, the fourth Tuesday comes to an end, and I'll be seeing in the next class. So, oh my god, I have to give you an assignment, right? Anyway, here are a few questions you could answer when you're free. And here's a little task. Take a recorder, switch on the recording app, and talk to yourself. What are the things you want to do before you're 30, or let's say in the next 5 years? How are you planning to do it? What would be your first step? Every day when you wake up, do listen to this recording and see how it changes your life big time. Thanks a lot, people. Bye bye. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the third lesson of this course, Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be your presenter today. Here's a little information about who I am. To catch my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. Today we'll be talking about the conversation Morrie and Mitch had on the 5th and the 6th Tuesday. The topic being family and emotions. It was the time of the year when the new school session started, and Morrie was there sitting in his chair, looking like that retired football player wondering at the TV and thinking, I can do that. What's so important? Mitch already had in his mind that today they'll be talking about family. And once he looks at the shelves, he sees every beautiful moment had been captured by Morrie with his two children who are working abroad right now. And here's a thought: without love, we're just birds with broken wings. It was beautifully written on a poster, and it moved Mitch a bit. And when Morrie starts talking about family, here's a beautiful fact. The fact is, there is no foundation, no secure ground upon which people may stand today if it isn't the family. It's become quite clear to me as I've been sick. If you don't have the support and love and caring and concern that you get from a family, you don't have much at all. Love is so supremely important. Love each other or perish. That might sound like a family speech, but then, pretty cool, right? Here's a scenario for you. Ever wondered how it would feel if you're alone, with no family, with your disease, regretting your life, and wanting to end it somehow? At that very moment, if you're rich enough, you can see a Lamborghini standing outside, but there's no one to ride it. You have caretakers, but no one to show real love. This is where he says, this is part of what a family is about. Not just love, but letting others know there's someone who is watching out for them. Beautifully said, isn't it? This leaves Mitch in a confusion. He started wondering whether he would be empty and would he feel unbearable if he had been in a situation of Morrie. But then Morrie starts talking about children and the topic completely shifts. Alright, let's just accept the fact. Children are annoying, right? I mean, they're everywhere. They require attention and they need constant pampering. Most of us don't have the time for it. Okay, I'm being rude there. But we do it anyway because it's a norm. But here's what Morrie had to say about children. There's no experience like having children. That's all. There's no substitute for it. You cannot do it with a friend. You cannot do it with a lover. If you want to experience of having complete responsibility for another human being and to learn how to love and bond in the deepest way, then you should have children. Makes me think as well. With that, Mitch starts wondering how he had been with his family. And there's a little conversation that goes on between Morrie and Mitch about Mitch's brother. Apparently, Mitch's brother had been living in Spain and he had the same disease that Mitch's uncle already had, pancreatic cancer. The only thing was, he was detached. He never wanted his family to come and visit him. He never wanted anyone to look after him, and that bothered Mitch a lot. Anyway, on that fact, Mitch assumes that his brother was a fighter since he has been the same from the youngest day. But there was already some thoughts that kept Mitch unsatisfied because he wasn't there to look after his brother. Every time he called upon his brother, there was only one reply, the answering machine. And just to make himself, not to ponder upon the thoughts about his brother, he used to work. Work some more, work more and more, just to get himself involved with this work. And with that, we come to the end of the fifth Tuesday. And here's a little task I could probably give you. Come on, go hug your mom and dad right now. I mean, right now. Tell them how much you love them and don't expect a reply. Turn around, walk back silently. Best of luck with that, by the way. Moving on to the sixth Tuesday, we'll be talking about emotions in this chapter. When Mitch enters Morrie's room, this time he brought in loads and loads of food. And Morrie's wife says that there's already so much food he hasn't eaten anything from last time. It took Mitch by surprise. I mean, seriously, you didn't eat anything from the last time? And then when she opened the refrigerator, he saw all the familiar containers that he had brought for Morrie. And this is what Morrie had to say. He doesn't want to hurt your feelings. I mean, you keep bringing food and he keeps accepting it. The only fact is that he doesn't eat. This is where emotion plays the game. Morrie's condition had been deteriorating every week, but he didn't want to stop his classes with Mitch. And today, he wanted to teach Mitch about the art of detachment. You know that Buddhist philosophy that works really well? Morrie would be teaching Mitch about it. Mitch wonders why detachment is very important. All the good emotions, they're important in life, right? Then what is the point of detaching from everyone? But here's the take on Morrie. Detachment doesn't mean you don't let the experience penetrate you. On the contrary, you let it penetrate you fully. That's how you are able to leave it. Still didn't understand the fact, right? Anyway, here's another example. Take any emotion, love for a woman, or grief for a loved one, or whatever you're going through, fear and pain, anything, or a deadly illness as well. If you hold back on the emotions, you don't allow yourself to go all the way through them. You can never be really detached. This is another philosophy that Morrie drops in, just to make sure you're clarified about the art of detachment. Let's just put it like this. You know what pain is. You know what love is. You know what grief is. And only then you can say, alright, I've experienced that emotion. I can recognize that emotions. Now all I need to do is detach from the emotions for a moment and feel life in the present moment. Most of us have another habit. When we say we get detached completely, and that works the opposite way. You know, how we feel a surge for love for a partner, but we don't say anything because we're frozen in the fear of what those words might do to the relationship. Does it ring a bell? Might have happened in everyone's life once or twice, but do think upon it. Mitch starts wondering what the emotions of a dying person would be like, and Morrie understands instantly. This is what he had to say. I want to die serenely, peacefully. And this is where detachment comes in. If I die in the middle of a coughing spell, like I just had, I need to be able to detach from the horror. I need to say, this is my moment. Quite a beautiful and deep thought, right? At this moment, you might be having a life-threatening situation, a breakup, or a relationship issue, and you might be thinking, oh God, let me just escape from all this and get into oblivion. But that is never going to happen. At every point of your life, you're supposed to learn how and when to get detached. I hope this works out for you. And for now, I'll give you a little assignment. And do take up your notepad today. Think about the worst moment you ever had in life. Write it down. Once you're done, just look at it and wonder, how did time heal everything? How did you gather courage? And how did you detach from the situation and now everything is alright? Give it a thought and I'll see you in next class. See you for today. Bye bye. Sayonara. Hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the fourth lesson of this course, Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be your presenter today. Here's a little information about who I am. To catch my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. Today, we'll be talking about a really important topic that's relevant with the modern generation, the fear of aging and money, and this will be the 7th and 8th Tuesday. On the 7th Tuesday, when Mitch entered Morrie's place, he figured out something really important: dependency. Apparently, the condition of Morrie had been deteriorating day by day, and as of now, the only thing he could do all by himself was breathing and solving his food. All the other basic things like going to the bathroom, wiping his nose, it had to be done by the caretakers. When Mitch wonders how Morrie had been handling all this is what Morrie had to say. I began to enjoy my dependency. Now I enjoy when they turn me over on my side and rub cream on my behind so I don't get sores. Or when they wipe my brow or they massage my legs. I revel in it. I close my eyes and soak it up, and it seems so familiar to me. Forget about Mitch, it kind of moved me as well. And look at it, how beautiful one can take life in a positive way. It's like you're going to be a child all over again. With that talk, Mitch starts wondering how Morrie had been handling everything, and he has been wondering how the modern generation doesn't actually go well with the fact that they're aging. While he was on his way to Morrie's place, he had been observing everything on the billboards. There was a handsome young man in a cowherd boy smoking a cigarette, two beautiful young women smiling over a shampoo bottle, a teenager with her jeans ripped, and a woman in her black velvet dress. Everyone. Not a single person would have passed the age of 35. And what does it say? That the modern generation is obsessed with young age. Nobody wants to get past 40, and everyone seems to be living in an illusion that they'll be living forever and ever in the same age. When Mitch put forth this topic in front of Morrie started discussing about all the young people who had come to visit him during this time. And all the kids who came to me with their struggles, their strife, their feelings of inadequacy, the sense that life was miserable, so bad they wanted to kill themselves. And then Morrie goes on saying that the young are not that wise. They have very little understanding about life. Who wants to live every day when you don't know what's going on? When people are manipulating you, telling you to buy this perfume and you'll be beautiful, or this pair of jeans and you'll be sexy, and you believe them. It's such nonsense. Does it ring a bell to you as well? It must have, because I've been thinking a lot. Because look at our modern generation. We have been buying lies every day, exchanging it for our money, and then wondering why is our life still unhappy, still unsatisfied. This leaves us with a very important conclusion. We all fear aging. But once you start listening to Morrie, you might start thinking twice again. It's very simple. As you grow, you learn more. If you stayed at 22, you'd always be as ignorant as at you're 22. Aging is not just decay, it's growth. It's more than a negative that you're going to die. It's also the positive that you understand you're going to die and that you live a better life because of it. Interesting thought, right? Once Mori drops that quote, Mitch starts wondering, he's an old man. He must be envying us right now. I mean, he's going to die. But seriously, why would someone say all this looking at a 22-year-old? And this is what Mitch had to say about it. Then Mori says, yes, Mitch, I do envy them. I'm not able to go to the health club or go for a swim or dance, but I do envy them. Let's just accept the fact I've been there alright. How can I be envious of where you are when I've been there myself? The truth is, part of me is every age. I'm a 3-year-old, I'm a 5-year-old, I'm a 37-year-old, I'm a 55-year-old. I've been through all of them and I know what it's like. I delight in being a child when it's appropriate to be a child. I delight in being a wise old man when it's appropriate to be a wise old man. Think of all I can be. I'm every age up to my own. With that, Mori starts growing a bit tired, and Mitch decided to leave for the day. And he decided to come on the next Tuesday. On the next Tuesday, when Mitch entered, he had another topic in mind: money. Money is a powerful tool, let's accept it. But here's something: when you're in your deathbed, would you rather think about the money you had in your bank, or the money you might have made if you had been healthy? Or would you think about all the memories that you made in your life? Mitch starts talking about the modern generation and how all the minds are messed up. It doesn't actually require to be the modern generation. Money has been important in all the generations. And there's something about money that makes us greedy and greedy. Because that is what the society says. More money is good. More property is good. More commercialism is good. More is good. More is good. We repeat it, and that stays in our subconscious, and that is what we fight for till the end of our life. Only to realize that, oh God, we've been following the wrong path. And there's a beautiful line that Mitch drops here. I met people wanting to gobble up something new. Gobble up a new car, gobble up a new piece of property, gobble up the latest toy. And then they wanted to tell you about it. Guess what I got? Guess what I got? And this is how the modern society works. Let's put forth an analogy. Let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook has everything that makes people happy. They never share their sadness, but they make sure that every happy moment is posted on Facebook. What do they get out of it? They satisfy their ego. And that is what money does to you. Neither money nor power will give you the feeling you're looking for, no matter how much of them you have. But then you keep doing it, thinking that money is the substitute for everything. The reality is, money is not. The next day you go shopping, or you have loads of money, and you have the feel or the need to buy something new. Think about it. Do you really want it, or do you really need it? You have to be honest with yourself. You don't need the latest sports car. You don't need the biggest house. All you need is a place to live and something to transport. That being said, if a huge Ferrari can bring a smile upon your face, then that's up to you. Mitch starts wondering, if money doesn't give you satisfaction, then what does? What am I supposed to spend? And Morrie goes on saying, offering others what you have to give. I don't mean money, Mitch. I mean your time, your concern, your storytelling. It's not so hard. Devote yourself to loving others. When you give them time, you make them smile. And that is worth more than what money can ever give you. If you make a dissatisfied person happy, and that means you will be satisfied forever. Here's a little quote that Morrie drops in between. A beautiful one, by the way. Do the kind of things that comes to your heart. When you do, you won't be dissatisfied. You won't be envious. You won't be longing for somebody else's things. On the contrary, you'll be overwhelmed with what comes back. Morrie goes on talking about pain, and then he says, why do I have to listen to people when I have all the pain in the world? And then he answers himself, because that gives me happiness. That gives me peace. And with that, we'll be ending today's session. And here's a little question you can ponder upon, or you can take your notebook and do write a few thoughts about it. Make a list of all the things that you bought in the recent times or ages ago, and now you don't even use it. Things that have been costly, or things that made sense at that point, but now it doesn't make any sense at all. Go on, make a list, and think about it. Happy living, sayonara, see you in the next class. Bye bye. Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the fifth lesson of this course, Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be your presenter today. Here's a little information about who I am. To follow my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. Today, we'll be talking about two beautiful feelings, a love and another important thing in life, marriage. This being the ninth and the 10th Tuesday, with Morrie's condition deteriorating day by day, this is the point where Morrie goes on saying, when you're in bed, you're dead. That's the new aphorism he came up with, but it moved Mitch a lot. Anyway, Morrie had been getting calls from the interviewer. Remember the Nightline program that we spoke about in the first lesson? They have been contacting Morrie a lot again to talk about his latest life. I mean, there's no life, but there's always the point of increasing the TRP with an old man dying and talking about philosophy, right? That is what they were supposed to do. But here's what Mitch had to say. I'm using them. I'm using these people, even though they're using me for a little drama. I'm using them to help my message get to millions of people. So this is how the conversation starts, and then gradually they start talking about love. Mitch was kind of worried that Morrie might be forgotten after he's dead, but Morrie had to say something very beautiful. When you're in people's memory, there's no point and there's no way that you're going to be forgotten. When I'm dead, I don't think I will be. I've got so many people who have been involved with me in close, intimate ways, and love is how you stay alive, even after you're gone. Deep set philosophy, but that actually is kind of true, right? Every time Morrie keeps on saying that he's going to die, it brings tears in Mitch's eyes, but he makes sure he doesn't cry. And here's something funny that he says: "One of these days, Mitch, I'm gonna get you." When there was a real little silence between them, Morrie starts talking about his tombstone. Wait, everyone would have wondered what would I write if I had a tombstone in it, right? And this is what Morrie wanted on his tombstone. I was thinking of this, a teacher to the last. Quite beautiful, isn't it? You must be wondering right now. I mean, this guy told me that he'll be talking about love and marriage, but there's no point here. Well, when I said love, it doesn't mean hanging out with the person you care the most all around the city and then dropping in romantic dialogues. It can also mean loving the person you're talking to. That means that you're living in the present moment. Here's Morrie's take on it. I believe in being fully present. That means you should be with the person you're with. When I'm talking to you now, I try to keep focused only on what is going on between us. I'm not thinking about something we said last week. I'm not thinking of what's coming up this Friday. Most of us in this generation don't actually have the habit of living in the present moment, do we? Wherever you are, you keep thinking about the next moment. Let's just say you're having a beautiful breakfast. But there's no point because once you can't feel its delicacy, then what's the point? You're thinking about the next assignment, you're thinking about the meeting, and God grace, you forget the right moment. But why do we actually do all that? We keep running everywhere, we're always in a hurry, we shout in the traffic. We don't actually have found meaning in our life, have we? So we're running all the time looking for it. They think the next car, the next house, the next job, that will bring them happiness. When they find those things, they find that they're empty and they keep running again and again. This is the never running vicious cycle of life. With that, Mori starts talking about the art of listening as well. Most of us have lost this art these days, right? I mean, we're pretty cool with small talk. What do you do? Where do you live? But listening to them and understanding what the other person has to say to you, that is kind of difficult for the current generation. It might be due to attention deficiency, or it might be because you might be preparing for the next reply. But listening thoroughly to the other person, it's not just a task, it's an art. And once you master the art of listening, I bet you'll make sure you'll be one of the interesting person in your locality, in your office, in your life as well. So, here's a little task before we end this session. Pick up your phone, call that friend who hasn't called you in ages and ages, ask him how he is, and let him talk. On the other hand, you just listen and you don't reply. Trust me, this will work out really well and it will change you. That's your little exercise for today. With that, we'll be moving on to the next Tuesday, the 10th Tuesday, on marriages. How did you meet your soulmate? Mitch had been married to Janine for a really long time, and Janine wanted to meet Morrie at least once. And at one time, Janine did meet Morrie, and they struck a conversation like they have been talking in ages and ages. And Janine was a really great singer, and Mitch wanted Janine to sing a song. A little song, very noble. The very thought of you and I forgot to do, the little ordinary things that everyone ought to do. Mitch dwelled in the moment, and he was enjoying every little moment that Janine was sharing with him. It was actually beautiful looking at a child enjoying his time with a newly met person. Since Mitch had brought his wife, Morrie decided to talk about marriage. Though it was getting difficult for Morrie to breathe, he made sure that the lessons went on and on. When Morrie spoke about marriage and the current generation, he felt that they seem to struggle with the commitment. I mean, in this culture, it's so important to find a loving relationship with someone because so much of the culture does not give you that. But the poor kids today, either they're too selfish to take part in a real loving relationship or they rush into marriage and then 6 months later they get divorced. They don't know what they want in a partner. They don't know who they are themselves. So, how can they know who they're marrying? Thoughts to ponder upon there. And how do you expect everyone to follow the same rule? You might be wondering, yeah, that's probably true because we do have so many problems these days. And what is the solution for that? Well, Morrie has an answer for that as well. Here's a little secret, you can write it up somewhere. A loved one is so important. You realize that, especially when you're in the time like Morrie is, when you're not doing well. Friends are great, but friends are not going to be there at the night that you're coughing and can't sleep, and someone has to sit up all night with you, comfort you, trying to be helpful. If you're married and you're watching this video right now, think about your wife and think about the time when you were sick and when she was the only person sitting beside you. It might have been your mom, but then having a partner who can be by your side till you grow old, that is something to cherish upon. That brings us to the basic rules of marriage. I might sound like a philosopher here, but this is what Morrie had to say and it has nothing to do with me. Anyway, here are a few rules that you can implement in life if marriage is something that is not your cup of tea and you might actually want to improve your life a bit. Anyway, here it is. You'll have to have respect for the other soul. If you don't have respect, you're going to have a lot of trouble. You'll have to compromise at situations as well. If you're not going to compromise, again, you'll have a lot of trouble. And then we have open talks. There are times that we don't share our secrets with them, but that's fine. That's the personal line. But there are times when you have to have an open talk and you're not supposed to keep it hidden. You'll have to know when to make a difference. And then there are values. And values are very important. Your values must be alike. That brings us to one of the most beautiful and valuable values. You believe in the importance of your marriage. Once you believe how important the other person is in your life, I'm pretty sure nothing can break you apart. With that, I'll say goodbye for today. And well, I have to give you some assignment, right? Okay, let's just see. Okay, simple task. For the next 21 days, spend most of your time listening to people and not talking. Make sure you talk a few words, but make sure that you let them talk and you listen. Come back and comment on how interesting you'll become, and this is how the society works. Trust me. Anyway, see you in the next class. Bye bye. Good night. Okay, I was supposed to say sayonara. So, yeah, bye bye. See you in the next. Hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the sixth lesson of this course, Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be your presenter today. A little information about who I am. To follow my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. Today, we'll be talking about culture and forgiveness, that being the topic for the 11th and the 12th Tuesday. As I already mentioned, Morrie's condition had worsened, and at this point, he was gasping for breath. We have Mitch hitting on Morrie on his back to make sure that he breathes a lot, and whack now and then he gives one more and more. And he keeps saying that, "This is for the B you gave me in sophomore year, Morrie." Even when they were having such a little conversation, Mitch was feeling really bad for Morrie. He was there, sitting there like a little child, not able to do his own things. This is what Mitch had to say. I drummed on his back and sides, moving around. I hated the idea of Maurice lying in bed under any circumstances, and curled on his side. He was so small, so withered. It was more of a boy's body than a man's. In spite of all that, it was pretty interesting to see that Morrie had been positive all along. And then he said one line. "When did I give you a B, Mitch?" Later that day, when Morrie was about to talk, they started talking about the culture. Then he started talking about people. This is what Morrie had to say. People are only mean when they're threatened. And that's what our culture does. That's what our economy does. Even people who have jobs in our economy are threatened because they worry about losing them. And when you get threatened, you start looking out only for yourself. That is when money becomes God, and that is when you become selfish. There's something else that you have to ponder upon. Big things like how we think, what we value, and what we have to choose for ourselves. Determine everything, and you'll understand the important aspects of life. When Morrie talks about culture, he doesn't mean to demean the community. He says, I don't go around naked, for example. I don't run through red lights. This is part of the culture as well. The little things I can obey, but there are big things, like I said, the values, the way we think. This is not supposed to be shaped by our society or our culture. It is something that you have to identify your own self and keep your identity, just to make sure that you don't get lost into oblivion or get stuck in the matrix of illusion. And then Morrie starts talking about discrimination that we have in the recent world. Have you ever considered the fact that we are all one and we have been divided only because of such beliefs that had been created over generations and generations? Blacks, whites, religions, caste, countries, Asians, non-Asians. It's divided. It's totally divided. And Mori has a problem with all this. And look at us. It's like a huge human family, and we're supposed to invest in people, and we're supposed to build a little community of those you love and those we love. But this is not we do. The problem is that we don't believe we are much alike. We believe in differences. If we saw each other as more alike, we might be very eager to join in one big human family in this world and care about the family. But believe me, when you're dying, you see it is true. Quite a fact, right? There might be times when you might be sick and the only person who's looking after you is someone you must have hated a lot. You might be alone and you might be in a place where you thought you might not be, but then that is how life works, and that is what gives you a new, fresh perspective of life. On the 11th Tuesday, with a whisper, Morrie drops a little secret to Mitch. Here's the secret. In between, we need others as well. Simple but thought provoking. And with that, we'll move on to the next Tuesday, the 12th Tuesday. Today, we'll be talking about forgiveness and letting it go. When the helpers were taking care of Mitch, when the helpers were taking care of Morrie with Mitch, Mitch whispered a little line. Forgive yourself before you die, then forgive others. Morrie had been having thoughts about his past, and he must be regretting someone he must have not forgiven. And this is what he said. There is no point in keeping vengeance or stubbornness. These things, these things I so regret in my life. Pride, vanity. Why do we do the things we do? This time, without Mitch asking any questions, Morrie started talking. He started talking about a little sculpture that was there on the shelf. It was given to him by his friend, a long-time friend, and his name was Norman. They used to spend a lot of time together. They went swimming. They went to New York for rides. They went to Cambridge together as well. But what happened suddenly? Morrie's face gave a whimsical look. And then came the sad part of the story. Apparently, Norman and his wife had moved away to Chicago, and when Morrie and his wife had a pretty serious operation, Norman could not visit him. And this fact made sure that Morrie was hurt a little. Anyway, from that day, Morrie decided not to be in touch with Norman anymore. He was prideful, he shrugged him off, and then he didn't listen to any explanation from Norman. And something really bad happened after that. A few years later, he died of cancer, and until this point, Morrie had been regretting not forgiving him and not forgiving himself. Morrie pulls Mitch closer, and then he talks about his work and his ambitions, and then he says, forgive ourselves for all the things we didn't do, all the things we should have done. You can't get stuck on the regrets of what you should have happened. I always wished I had done with more work. I had written more books. I used to beat myself up. Now I see that never did any good make peace. You need to make peace with yourself and everyone around you. I ask you, the listener, when was the last time you beat yourself up for not performing well in the exams, not getting that nice promotion, and then beating yourself up not for not performing well at any point of your life? This is what you have to do. Close your eyes and forgive yourself and make peace once and for all. With that talks, Morrie silently looks at his deathbed and then says, "Oh Mitch, I think I'll have a perfect tombstone at this place. Not far from here, on a hill, beneath a tree, overlooking a pond. Very serene, a good place to think." Tick tock, and Morrie's time was ending. And then he said one beautiful line to Mitch: "After I'm dead, you talk and I listen." With that, we end today's session. And for today's assignment, I'll just drop a easy question. Something like, when was the last time you had a fight with someone you knew a lot and then you thought like, no, I'm not going to talk to him forever? And here's what you do today. Pick up the phone, make peace with him, and smile. That's it. Yep, that's about it. And I'll be leaving today. Bye bye. I'll meet you with the last lesson of this course. See you. Sayonara. Hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this last lesson of the course, Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be your presenter today. Here's a little information about me. To follow my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. Well, that brings us to the last two Tuesdays, the 13th and the 14th Tuesday. This is the point where Mitch had to bid goodbye to Morrie. But on the 13th Tuesday, they have a little brief conversation on how beautiful a day can be. Morrie starts talking about death, on how death is a natural process and it's more like life. It's part and package of the deal that we have made with God. Anyway, Morrie had been having really bad nights lately, and there were times when there were violent hacking spells that woke him up, and making him breathe normally was a huge task. Even with the oxygen machine, it wasn't working out. Morrie was sharing his deep fetched thoughts with Mitch and how terrible he had been feeling the other night. Though Mitch had tears in his ears, he couldn't actually give out what he was feeling. He hugged Morrie and then he said, "Take care." When Morrie had been talking about death, this is what he said: the sensation of accepting what was happening, being at peace. I was thinking about a dream I had last week where I was crossing a bridge into something unknown, being ready to move on, whatever it is. It's so natural to die. Most of us think that we're going to live on and on forever, and that we think that death is a huge thing. The fact that we make death such a big hullabaloo over it is all because we don't see ourselves as a part of nature. We think because we're human, we're something above nature. All this philosophy, Morrie was drawing from a little hibiscus plant. Interesting, right? We're not. Everything that gets born dies one day. Without letting Mitch talk further, Morrie kept on talking about how memories were valuable to him and how he had touched many lives during his period on earth. You live on in the hearts of everyone you have touched and nurtured while you were here. Beautiful lines. And then he says, let's talk about a little story. Morrie takes a break before the story, and Mitch kept wondering, how would Morrie spend if he had been given one healthy day? I mean, if you're someone who's really sick on your deathbed, and if you get one perfect day with 24 hours, how would you do it? You would probably travel around the world if you had the chance. You would meet the people you always wanted to meet, eat the food you wanted to eat. And then, what did Morrie wanted to do? Let's see. I'd get up in the morning, do my exercises, have a lovely breakfast of sweet rolls and tea, go for a swim, then have my friends come over for a nice lunch. I'd have them come one or two at a time so we could talk about their families, their issues, talk about how much we mean to each other. Then I'd like to go for a walk in a garden with some trees, watch their colors, watch the birds, take in the nature that I haven't seen in so long now. In the evening, we'd all go together to a restaurant with some great pasta, maybe some duck. I love duck. And then we would dance the rest of the night. I'd dance with all the wonderful dance partners out there until I was exhausted, and then I'd come home and have a deep, wonderful sleep. Interesting. It moved Mitch a lot. Not everyone has the same perspective in life, but this was something really beautiful, and that is when Mitch realized that this was the whole point of being alive. Coming back to the little story that Morrie wanted to share with Mitch, let's call the story the Little Wave Story. Once upon a time, there was a little wave blobbing alone in the ocean, having a grand old time. He's enjoying the wind and the fresh air until he notices the other waves in front of him crashing against the shore. My God, this is terrible, the wave says. Look what's going to happen to me. Then along comes another wave. It sees the first wave looking grim and it says, Why do you look so sad? The first wave says, You don't understand. We're all going to crash. All of us waves are going to be nothing. Isn't it terrible? And here's a deep philosophical line that the second wave utters. No, you don't understand. You're not a wave. You're part of the ocean. And with that, Morrie slowly closes his eyes again, whispers, Part of the ocean, and then Mitch leaves for the night. And that brings us to the last. Yep, that's it. The last Tuesday. When Mitch came in to visit one last time, there was a huge silence in their house. No, Morrie wasn't dead, but he wasn't able to talk anymore. Morrie's mouth was wide open, and his skin was pale and tight against his cheekbones. When his eyes rolled toward him, he tried to speak, but he heard only a soft grunt. Mitch wanted to talk to Morrie really badly, but Morrie wasn't in a situation to talk. But then, after seeing Mitch, he had to say one word. You're a good soul, Mitch. I love you. And then Mitch said, I love you too, dear coach. Though Mitch had a feeling that tomorrow would be a better day, he always knew that this is how they would say goodbye to one another. With that, he leaves Morrie for the day and wishes that he'll become better the other day. But then things didn't happen well, and then came the end. Morrie died on a Saturday morning. There were people all around, and the funeral was held in a damp, windy morning. The grass was wet, and the sky was the color of milk. They all stood by the hole in the earth, close enough to hear the pond water lapping against the edge and to see ducks shaking off their feathers. Well, this is how Morrie wanted to die, and this is where he wanted to spend the rest of his lifetime. Now he was just a memory. He was a memory that everyone cherished. Mitch could hear Morrie speaking to him again and again. You talk, I'll listen. And Mitch made a decision that every time he would want to speak to Mitch, he would come there, sit near the tombstone on a Tuesday, and then share his life with him. I guess that's about it. And Mitch ends the story by one beautiful paragraph. The last class of my professor's life took place once in a week, in his home, by a window in his study, where he could watch a small hibiscus plant shed its pink flowers. The class met on Tuesdays. No books were required. The subject was the meaning of life. It was taught from experience, and the teaching goes on and on. Though I couldn't bring out the whole emotion of the book in this presentation, I really wish that if you happen to find some time, do pick up this beautiful book and make sure that you change your perspective in life. Oh, I have to give you one more assignment for today. Anyway, just rate, review, and recommend, and I'll see you around with the new course. So, sayonara, bye bye, signing off. This is Abhishek TR. See ya.